I'm very pleased that we are back here after 2017. I was asked when was the last time we were in Bremen, so that we are back here in Bremen, even though, as a Hamburg resident, I have an ambivalent relationship with Bremen. It's a bit like the relationship between Bremen and Hamburg, like Cologne and Düsseldorf. So historically, there are some ambivalencies given there, but I am really pleased. I'm looking forward to the next 3 days and the hospitality here in Bremen and to a great annual congress. And I believe I said it before, thank you all here in the hall for being here in these numbers. We are expecting over 5,000 participants here again this year on these 3 days. And at this point, a big thank you to all those who have prepared this event beforehand, did the planning, the preparation of this year's, but of course to all those who support the implementation here on site, that it runs smoothly, and who give us their hand. This year, we have chosen the motto "Wonderfully Changeable." And with this, we would like to put the successful handling of change at the center of our event. Many companies and organizations have to deal with change on an ongoing basis. Last year, we had at our annual congress our discussion about how companies have to keep pace with change in their search for success. And this year, we are building bridges and asking how companies, DSAG, SAP, but also the entire ecosystem can actively shape change together. I don't know about you. I brought you something with me. When was the last time you had a kaleidoscope in your hand? Before today, I mean. I remember the kaleidoscope from my childhood or from my teen days. And I always found it fascinating how different images were created with every turn somehow, and when you looked through it. In any case, we will look through this kaleidoscope and search for the right rotation to master the digital, technological, ecological, but also the economic changes, and to successfully shape change together. And you're probably wondering who the three fellows on the screen are and what they have to do with our Congress. And no, it's not a cut-down delegation of the Bremen town musicians. Today is a very special day, not only because we all are meeting here in Bremen for the annual Congress, no, but also because today is an extraordinarily significant event. And today is the 240th anniversary of an event that fits in wonderfully with our motto this year today, wonderfully changeable. It was exactly today, on the 19th of September, 240 years ago, in the year 1783 at the Palace of Versailles, that these three companions, the martyr, the duck, and the rooster, set off on what was surely the greatest adventure of their lives. Not entirely voluntary, as it later turned out, but nevertheless, these three were clearly the first aeronauts in history. Because 240 years ago, today, the age of aviation began. And these three proved with a 12-minute journey in the Montgolfier, named after the inventors, that it is possible to survive air travel. Just as people were initially afraid that traveling by train at more than 30 kilometers per hour could be harmful to people's health, they were also not sure that it was possible to live without both feet on the ground. And just 2 months later, the first human aeronauts took to the skies, triggering a change that was considered impossible for a long time, and that was to have a lasting impact on humanity. And this is just one example of many in which people have achieved something that was clearly impossible until then. Wonderfully changeable. Yes, that's us, but only if we replace the word impossible with not yet possible. Just take your smartphone in your hand. And I know the story is old and probably you've heard it a couple of times, but if someone had told you 30 years ago that one day you would have a computer in your trouser pocket or handbag, a computer that is battery operated, that can network with other computers, that can make wireless phone calls, that can record and play back videos and photos, what would you have told that person 30 years ago? Probably you would have said that they were crazy. But today, this pocket computer is the most normal thing in the world, and we can't imagine our life without it. So, 240 years ago, aviation looked like this. And today, the first drone taxis are already flying through the air. So it is only through change that many things are possible today that once seemed impossible. Change, and of course, disruptive change happens continuously and is absolutely not a new topic. Already 2,500 years ago, Heraclitus of Ephesus formulated his often quoted phrase, "Nothing is as constant as change." But what has changed over the centuries? The dynamics and complexity of change have increased, presenting companies and organizations with ever greater challenges. Companies and organizations are confronted with rapid changes in many areas. Examples of this are the digital transformation, technological change, ecological change, economic change, or demographic change. With digital change, or the digital transformation, we are talking about changes in the economy and society that are triggered by digitalization, networking, and automation, or autonomization. For companies and organizations, this means changes in business processes and business models that can be supported by solutions such as S/4HANA. Technological change focuses on new technologies such as artificial intelligence. These technologies are finding their way into our everyday lives and into the solutions of SAP and others more and more quickly. ChatGPT, a chatbot that uses artificial intelligence, already had over 1 million users in less than a week after its release, and 2 months later, already over 100 million. In the context of ecological change, sustainability is becoming increasingly important as a goal for companies and organizations. In this context, transparency, for instance, regarding CO2 emissions is necessary, for which SAP is developing appropriate solutions. Economic change is strongly influenced by geopolitical events such as the corona pandemic or the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Here, companies and organizations need to, for instance, strengthen the resilience of the supply chains. And finally, demographic change, which we can see everywhere, that affects us all. This change is exacerbating the shortage of skilled workers. The individual areas of change are not independent of each other, but are interrelated and influence each other. The challenge for companies and organizations lies, among other things, in having to deal with many changes at the same time. The question that now arises is how well companies and organizations can keep up with these changes. How wonderfully changeable are companies and organizations really? Here is a brief review of last year's annual congress. In a joint survey with the American SAP user group, ASAC, 85% of the DSAG members surveyed had stated that they can keep up with the changes to some extent or without any problems. The main reasons cited for this were qualified and motivated employees, sufficient resources, flexible organizations, and fast decision-making processes, as well as a will to change supported by the management. So, is everything good? Let's take digital transformation and look at the results of our investment survey this year. As before, over half of our members say that their company or their organization is not very far along in the digital transformation. Compared to the survey of 2 years ago, there have been no significant changes in this regard. Reasons for this could be, for example, different priorities due to the corona pandemic or the geopolitical situation. With regard to the ERP solutions used by DSAG member companies, our investment survey showed that more and more companies and organizations are switching to S/4HANA. So the standard maintenance expires in 2027. This is not a big surprise. 41% of respondents said they already use S/4HANA on premises. 8% use S/4HANA in the private cloud and 3% in the public cloud. Around half of the companies or organizations surveyed still have the migration to S/4HANA ahead of them. Many migrations, however, are technical migrations. This means that a real transformation and also topics such as cloud ERP are often still future topics. To support our DSAG members, we have various initiatives. On the one hand, we have the Cloud Enablement Initiative in the DSAG Academy, or the joint development of corresponding services together with SAP in the DSAG Transformation Department. With regard to technological change, artificial intelligence is currently one of the most discussed topics. In the investment survey in the companies, this is not reflected very well. Companies and organizations, when it comes to innovative technologies, are hesitant. At the investment survey last year, only 12% of companies and organizations surveyed had named artificial intelligence or machine learning as one of their top investment areas. Since ChatGPT became available last year, the topic of artificial intelligence, of course, has received an enormous boost in attention. So therefore, we expect that in the upcoming investment survey, the topic of AI will certainly become more relevant. To support our members, here, we have developed a position paper containing the relevant information. At the same time, you will also find recommendations on what companies should pay attention to when introducing and using AI. And I would like to take this opportunity here to point out our new Impulse stage at the DSAG booth. Tomorrow, among other things, in cooperation with the AI Center here in Bremen, a series of Impulse contributions, presentations and discussions all around the topic of AI are planned. The ecological change is reflected, among other things, in the increasing relevance of the topic of sustainability in companies and organizations. With regard to the relevance of overarching topics for investment planning, sustainability was also one of the more important topics at this year's DSAG investment survey. 17% of respondents gave sustainability high relevance, 31% a medium relevance in the context of their investment plans. However, this also means that just under half of the respondents gave sustainability only low or no relevance at all. So, there is definitely still potential with regard to sustainability. And in order to better support the DSAG members in this area as well, we have bundled the topic of sustainability in the Transformation and Sustainability Department. Companies and organizations must also take economic change into account. Among other things, the pandemics or geopolitical crises such as the Russian invasion of Ukraine had influence on that. The production losses, as exemplified by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and the associated sanctions affect us all. The Cologne-based Institute of German Economy has estimated that economic output last year was more than 1,600 billion US dollars lower because of this. And for 2023, the global production losses could amount to another 1,000 billion US dollars. Companies and organizations have to deal, for instance, with increased inflation, higher energy costs, and disrupted value chains as a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Let's draw an interim conclusion here. Change is continuous. It takes place inside and outside companies and organizations, and it happens intentionally and unintentionally. But change also causes change. Economic change, on the one hand, is also conditioned by ecological change. An example would be here sustainability on the one hand, and on the other side, a change or changing consumer behavior. Digital change is also conditioned by technological change. As an example here, AI on the one hand and autonomization of systems on the other hand. And even if many DSAG members have basically signaled that they can keep up with the changes to some extent or without any problems, there is still a lot of potential here on closer inspection. The speed of change can be a small river today and tomorrow a raging torrent. But companies and organizations are not on their own here. And to come back to the question, so all is not yet well. There is still a lot to be done. SAP, its partners, and also other companies and organizations in the SAP ecosystem can help to successfully manage this change. And we, as DSAG, are the central hub for this. The DSAG, the central platform for the SAP ecosystem in German-speaking countries. We have currently more than 3,800 companies and organizations that are currently organized. In over 200 working committees, more than 2,000 people have an exchange from SAP user companies, from the partners, and also from the SAP itself. This network, which has been growing continuously for decades, supports companies and organizations in successfully mastering the change mentioned. True to the motto of our event today, creating new perspectives together. In close cooperation between SAP user companies, partners, and SAP, current information will be exchanged, knowledge is imparted, and jointly developed solutions. And I would now like to take this opportunity to thank everyone involved for their commitment within our DSAG and within our DSAG. So let's now look at SAP. Not surprisingly, SAP as a software provider has the highest relevance in our community. Our joint survey with the American SAP user group DSAG had already confirmed this last year. 86% of the members surveyed also agreed with the statement that existing solutions from SAP help to overcome current and future challenges. In this respect, the close cooperation with SAP at all levels, from strategy to the implementation of solutions, is a central concern within DSAG. And last year, there were again many examples of successful cooperation with SAP within the DSAG. The maintenance extension of manufacturing solutions, for instance. Here, DSAG has achieved that SAP extends the maintenance for the important manufacturing solutions, SAP Manufacturing Execution Systems and SAP Manufacturing Integration and Intelligence until the end of 2030. Or the electronic reporting to tax authorities. With specific requirements, DSAG has played a decisive role in the development of SAP Document and Reporting Compliance, a standard solution for electronic invoicing, real-time reporting, and legal reporting to tax authorities. And for the near future, we hope to see the implementation of harmonization in the existing portfolio, as we have already addressed in the context of our cooperation. And together, we developed a 360-degree service for setting up an S/4HANA transformation. And in this case, 360 degrees does not mean a standstill or a turning point, as was once understood in statements by a federal minister, but an all-around view. So this is a service that was developed jointly on the basis of the close and trusting cooperation between DSAG and SAP. And on this service and the corresponding pilot project on Thursday, we are going to have a presentation at the DSAG booth. And these are just 3 examples of successful cooperation. Another positive example is the implementation of regulation of the energy price break, which was implemented in close coordination between SAP, our working committee, energy supplier, and 5 pilot customers. And also from partner environment, there have been positive examples, for instance, from the test, demo, and development topic group. Here, for instance, the minimum terms of cloud orders could be reduced. On top of that, a large number of online sessions and other activities around the topic of generative artificial intelligence or ChatGPT were carried out, with thousands of participants in close cooperation between DSAG, Academy, SAP, and Microsoft. New or updated guidelines were published on the topic of S/4HANA migration, a DSAG S/4HANA test guide, a new guideline on the ABAP development tools in Eclipse, and also the checklists and maintenance. All guidelines are available for free download on the DSAG website. In cooperation with SAP Training and Adoption, we currently offer, together with the DSAG Academy, over 50 training courses on the system per year. And once again, I would like to thank all those involved from the SAP user companies, from the partners, and from the SAP. Thank you so much for your effort. In particular, I would like to go into more detail about the partners in the following. Partners, these are both service providers and solution providers in the SAP environment. And around 1/3 of DSAG member companies are partners. This makes them an essential part of our DSAG community. They are active in many DSAG committees and are often both SAP users and providers of SAP-related services and solutions. And to give more weight to the interests of the more than 1,000 partners organized in the DSAG, we will set up a partner advisory board tomorrow. So this will be to the benefit of the SAP ecosystem. Towards the SAP, we want to be the voice of the partners, and we want to lend more weight. The Partner Advisory Board will consist of 6 partner representatives. They will cover the entire partner spectrum from small to large, as well as service and solution providers. The Partner Advisory Board will be the sparring partner for all stakeholders in DSAG and vis-à-vis SAP. The task will be to identify, prioritize and formulate the relevant topics in the SAP ecosystem from the partner perspective, in order to then work on these topics in close coordination with the DSAG office in a constructive dialogue with SAP. Collaboration between SAP user companies, partners and SAP was also the focus of our joint survey with the American user group ASAC and other user groups worldwide. We had asked SAP users, partners, and SAP employees to rate their satisfaction regarding the cooperation with each other on a scale from 1, very satisfied with the cooperation, to 5, very dissatisfied with the cooperation. In total, 480 people took part in the survey. 262 participants from SAP users, 134 participants from partners, and 84 SAP employees. The best rating was given by SAP employees regarding their cooperation with SAP user companies. The average rating for collaboration was 1.9. Conversely, SAP users rated the cooperation with SAP with an average of 2.6. So here we have clear differences in perception. SAP partners gave the worst rating with an average of 2.8 regarding cooperation with SAP. Conversely, SAP employees rated the cooperation with partners with an average of 2.0. So here as well, there are significant differences in perception. Partners and SAP user companies rate their cooperation similarly well, on the other hand. Basically, the results show, however, that cooperation in the SAP ecosystem works. However, especially when it comes to cooperation with SAP on the part of SAP user companies and partners, there is still some potential. This annual Congress, and we have chosen the motto "Wonderfully Changeable." It is my firm conviction that the entire SAP ecosystem is wonderfully changeable. And we can achieve even more together, especially if we work on the framework conditions that we can influence. In our survey with the other user groups, we also asked for specific potential for improvement. Specifically, the partners asked for more understanding of companies or the business of those companies. In addition, SAP user companies would like partners to offer a better price-performance ratio, especially for medium-sized companies. SAP user companies and SAP employees would like, for instance, SAP partners to have more or deeper SAP know-how, especially with regard to SAP strategy, new SAP solutions, SAP best practices, and SAP standards. In addition, a higher level of commitment is demanded from partners, for instance, in the promise of resources. These are topics that partners can also work on together with SAP and DSAG. For instance, the DSAG Academy offers training courses in cooperation with SAP Learning, which are also open to partners, of course. At the annual press conference in July this year, SAP announced that the latest innovations from SAP would only be available in the cloud. More specifically, only for customers who have S/4HANA Public Cloud or S/4HANA Private Cloud using via a RISE or GROW contract. However, this does not mean that on-premise solutions will generally not be developed further in terms of functionality. The commitment regarding the maintenance commitment for S/4HANA until 240 is in place. But on-premise customers cannot benefit from the major innovations such as AI and green ledgers. This also applies to major function developments and enhancement that are developed on the basis of the business technology platform. At the same time, SAP wants to increase maintenance fees. In discussions with SAP, it was made clear that the new developments on the subject of AI, in particular, will only be available to customers with a RISE or GROW contract. In our view, SAP is leaving numerous loyal customer companies out in the cold which we made very clear in our press release in August. And to make our position clear, once again, we as DSAG support the use of the cloud. We know that innovations today have to be provided primarily on cloud technology, and we are aware that SAP is developing in the direction of a cloud company. But we want the freedom for each individual company to decide for itself when and with which functions it wants to go to the cloud, and especially if there are no technical reasons for having to decide between those two worlds. So there must be no compulsion here. We demand that SAP shows clear development paths for a smooth transition to the cloud and the next ERP generation without jeopardizing the investments already made. And it is precisely those customers who have already followed SAP strategy at an early stage who must not be left alone now. We demand We demand that all innovations for the S/4HANA Private Cloud are also made available for S/4HANA on-premise with an identical scope of services. A cloud-first strategy from SAP, we can understand that, yes. We can understand a cloud-first strategy from SAP, but cloud-only is still not an option in our view. In addition, the following challenges for SAP emerge from the joint survey with ASAC in our view. So we need more transparency, for example, regarding product strategies and pricing models. Within this survey, such topics as overly complex pricing metrics, hidden licensing costs, and lack of transparency were mentioned. Product quality must be improved, for instance, with new solutions and with regard to legal requirements. And we have often addressed the latter in the past towards the SAP. Here, SAP strategy and development, as well as customer needs, do not always go hand in hand. So it is important to involve customers and partners earlier and more intensively during development, and to take hybrid cloud and on-premise scenarios or heterogeneous SAP and non-SAP scenarios more into account. In this context, we also see it as necessary to increase service quality, so to provide customers and partners with qualified contact persons and to improve response and correction times, for instance, in the case of error messages. And overall, we demand a stronger customer orientation from SAP, both in terms of product and pricing strategy. There must be a stronger focus on the needs of customers and partners, sustainable roadmaps, and clear governance regarding cooperation, including fair and sustainable licensing models. Because in the end, for SAP, with all those topics, it's always about customers and also the partners. They need to be in the center of their behavior, not to lose their trust, so that we, together, SAP user groups, partners, SAP and DSAG, so that we can master the change in a wonderful way. And we users must not wait for miracles here. Miraculously does not come by itself. Due to different framework conditions, there is a great deal of uncertainty among companies and organizations. And also, the SAP strategy is unsettling. But it still means for us that we have to be open to new things and should also use innovations that are made available by SAP in a functional way. So in the discussions that we have regularly with the SAP, we are pointed to the fact that it's important to use the current versions. The topic of necessary transformation business suite to S/4HANA has been discussed over the last months and years. I think everyone should be aware of that. But when it comes to S/4HANA, there is a number of errors and weak spots, and where maintenance will expire. Innovations will be used by us if we are willing to implement the necessary changes and updates. Think about the kaleidoscope. A small turn will result in a new picture. Small changes can give you a new perspective or new possibilities for solutions. So let's embrace the change together and shape it together. And now I'd like to wish you and us 3 successful days in Bremen. Use the many offers, the presentation, information at the booths to get information to shape your change, your transformation. Thank you very much.